Hello everybody, welcome back to another reading. Today we're taking a look at the case of Jacqueline Vasquez, who was only 3 months old when her parents took her and her older siblings to a swap meet in Evansdale, Arizona. This was on May the 6th of 2001. Now when the older sister needed to go to the bathroom, her mother Olivia went and assisted the older sister in the bathroom, leaving Jacqueline to sit in a car seat just outside of the cubicle. And they were only in there for like a minute. And when she went back out, she found that Jacqueline was no longer there. And she went to ask around if anybody had seen her daughter, but nobody had. And when the police were called in to investigate, there were people who mentioned that there was a woman lingering around the toilet area, the porta potties, and she may have made a comment about Jacqueline. So they believe that she was abducted by a woman who wanted to raise a child of her own, and she may very well still be alive, obviously in a different place under a different name, unaware that she was actually not born to the woman who raised her as her mother. But this is all the information that we know. So today we're going to take a look at this case, and we're going to start off with the Affirmator's Tarot deck, which is currently already on the screen. And for further questions, we're moving on to the Smith-Waite deck, which is this one, to try and see what else we could find out about Jacqueline and her current status and whereabouts. So as per usual, I'm just going to start shuffling the deck, and when I have a good amount of cards on the table, we'll take a look. So without much further ado, let's get started. Okay, so we're starting off strong here with the Tower in reverse. Then we have the Four of Pentacles and the Six of Wands. Let me just take a quick look at these three. So the Tower is normally like a great upheaval, and at least something that really is life-changing. And in this case, it almost seems more like I'm looking at the flames there that are normally at the bottom of the tower, but for now it's starting to look more like the bird is falling away from the flames. It almost seems like, because it's in reverse, the tower, that this was a planned upheaval. I think this is the person who probably took them, and it almost seems like a phoenix rising from the ashes in a sense, almost like a second chance. It feels like a second chance, like, oh hey, I've been working on things. This really does look like it's from the perspective of the person who took Jacqueline, that they've been planning for this. See, this hippo over here has been hoarding money, has been hoarding resources, and then there's a couple little birdies over there. They're kind of eyeing them like, no, I don't know which one, or whether they're paying attention to me at all, but they're kind of keeping their resources away from people. So these birdies might be people in their environment who may talk, who may see things, who may be jealous of their resources, something along those lines. So they've been saving things up, and this is probably something that happened before the tower, or perhaps before and after. And then we see the Six of Wands, which is represented by a mouse jumping with a bunch of feathered boots on. Very energetic and able to leap over all sorts of obstacles, it seems. And there is no care in their world whatsoever. So I think that this is the planned upset or change in the life, and this is the preparation and also the time after, because infants are very expensive, children in general are very expensive. But we're still on top of the world here though, because this is like a victory lap they're doing over here. So they definitely were not at all surprised by this change. Obviously they caused it, but I feel like even though it was planned, sort of, the moment where she actually took the child probably was so unexpectedly shocking even to them that it did feel like a whole new thing. Like imagine you were preparing for bringing a child into your house, kind of like if you're planning on adopting somebody maybe, then you have like this whole planning phase as well, but the method of procuring the child is totally legal in the sense of adoption, so you wouldn't have that shock. But this is the okay, we can't go back now, this is it type of situation. Like there's no turning back now, I've gone done thing, if I turn right now I go to jail, so I might as well keep going like that. But they didn't feel too bad about that for very long, which you see here by the Six of Wands. So then we have the Page of Wands, who's in reverse, and we have the Eight of Cups. This is another set of cards that are pointing towards taking this quick action and also not walking away from it, because Eight of Cups is normally a walking away from something card, as you can see as well. But the octopus is kind of thinking things over when you put it upright, but it's in reverse, so they're not thinking anything over, they're not walking away from this decision. As a matter of fact, they're doubling down, because the Page of Wands, aside from being head over heels, is also very decisive. And also, if you notice, it's a cricket, and this kind of reminds me of the story of the ant and the grasshopper, where the ant is working to get a whole bunch of stuff stored away for winter, while the grasshopper is just out there enjoying life. And this kind of feels like that. It kind of goes very well with the Six of Wands next to it, like, oh, it's the same high on life type of feeling, and we're not going to change anything with this Eight of Cups because this is exactly what we wanted, that type of thing. So initially we're seeing a lot of joy and stubbornness and preparing for big changes. Then we're going on to the next row, and we have a lot of swords here and two kings, and on the end we have here the devil. So now we're getting into some choppy waters, it looks as though. So King of Wands here. I think this is not the same person that took Jacqueline. I think this is maybe somebody related to them. And the Three of Wands is normally a wish to travel, but it almost seems more of going towards harmony in that sense, if you know what I mean. Like they've grabbed all their wands and they're looking for the end of the rainbow, that type of thing. So this King of Wands may be somebody who was in the life of the person who took Jacqueline, and who may have been surprised by this sudden acquisition of a 3-month-old newborn, but they're also not backing away from it, because the King of Wands is somebody who is also very decisive, also really knows what he wants. And if they're sitting right next to this card, the Three of Wands, which to me seems like harmony and trying to figure out a way to get to the end of the rainbow together type of thing, then I think they may have either known beforehand, or they are not totally against it. We also have the Ace of Swords here, which is usually a new idea. So there's all sorts of new ideas coming up, and there's also King of Swords over here, who is probably helping that develop as well. So together they appear to have come up with a bunch of new ideas. They of course have a lot of problems to solve, possibly also in the realm of telling all of their friends and family how they suddenly have a child. And maybe I get the impression that maybe these people are not super close, like physically perhaps, to the people that would be considered friends and family. So they may have been able to pull off claiming that they had been pregnant all along, and they just didn't want to say anything about it just in case something went wrong, and that's why you never saw me with a large stomach. That type of ideas are being thrown around. Also, King of Swords is very good at communicating these ideas, and I think that this is perhaps a combination of both of them, like them towards everybody around them, making sure to stick to their own stories and tell very crafty lies and half-truths in order to calm everybody's potentially sense of growing unrest around suddenly having a child in the family. I'm pretty sure that they were able to calm everybody down pretty quickly. Now, this may have also brought them together in sort of a pact, these two people, because I don't think that there's only one person involved here. Like, there's probably one person who actually did the kidnapping, but I think, of course, they had perhaps a partner who became part of this scheme. We see here the devil, of course, which is often like an addiction type of thing, being tied down to something. And I think in this case it's the lies and the deception that they formed around the child, for basically spinning a web of lies around the child so that nobody would suspect anything, and that ties them together, because if one of them goes to jail, the other is also complicit, so probably they will make sure not to tell the truth about that and keep all their lies straight. So this looks like this is pretty shortly after she was kidnapped, looks as though. Now let's take a look at the more current state, or at least what happened after that, leading up to today. Okay, the Empress is in reverse, so perhaps the caring nature that the person showed initially started to wane after a while. Perhaps I feel like maybe they didn't quite plan it out as well as they thought they had, or at least emotionally not so much, because so far we see a lot of wands and swords energy, which is not necessarily an emotion type of thing. Okay, so they started losing their interest a bit because perhaps it was way more expensive than they thought. It's also typical that we're putting this on top of the Four of Pentacles over here, which is about saving up and stuff like that and being prepared and careful with your resources. I think this is them experiencing the fact that children are a lot more expensive than people tend to think, and that's perhaps also why they didn't continue to care as much as they probably should have. We do see here, though, a very clear harmony card, so perhaps towards the outside world they are pretending that everything is fine. So that's probably an indication that, well, maybe they also felt good about having a child, but also kind of like with the other two cards, the caring is lessened, and this is due to financial issues, expenses that they weren't expecting. It seems a little bit more like they're trying to pretend that everything is fine. Now a whole bunch of cards fell on the floor, so I'm going to grab those. Hang on. Okay, so one of them was the Three of Pentacles, which is working together. So they're definitely working very hard at this point to make everything work out for them. So they just found it to be a lot harder work than they thought, which may have lessened their enthusiasm. Like I said, we also have the World here in reverse, so I feel like they are still dealing with hiding the facts. So maybe there are still some people in their environment that are not quite sure about Jacqueline just appearing in their life. But I'm also reminded of another case looking at this, that of a woman who was also kidnapped as a baby and later found out who she was. And the reason why she found out who she was because her mother could not produce a birth certificate, which led that she couldn't get like a social security number and stuff like that, couldn't work, and that made things very difficult. I think I'm being reminded of that because the world may be constantly on their case about stuff like that, because it's not like you can just get a birth certificate that is legitimate, and these things may be causing them trouble. Things like that, small things that you wouldn't normally think about, but when it comes to administration or getting public services that require your identity card and stuff like that, or getting a job, like I said, may be very difficult. So they may still be feeling the effects of the world breathing down their neck and potentially figuring out what happened. And this is dealt with some quick spending, perhaps also unwise spending. They may be trying to throw some money around every once in a while to avoid suspicion. In any case, they don't really make very good spending decisions because the page is very unwise in that sense. Also, you can see here that they're not getting much charity, so they're definitely struggling when it comes to finances and that type of thing. So they're having a lot of trouble. I think this is still, like, we're not quite at current year yet, so this will be part of her life growing up, I think. She may have seen a lot of troubles with finances and stuff like that around her, and her parents having issues, perhaps also being a little secretive, because they're working together here to fight against the world, even though the outside picture is, oh wow, look at us being so harmonious, etc. Let's see what else we can find. Does she suspect anything? Let's see, there's a card that flips. Where are you? Here? Ace of Wands. Okay, so there's definitely actions being taken here to try and sort things out. New ideas also being put to work. Perhaps they have new initiatives that they're taking. We have Page of Swords, so we're still coming up with all sorts of different excuses and stuff like that, because the Page of Swords is not as intelligent as the Queen or the King. So they're basically, or even the Knight, and they're basically just telling quick lies at this point to try and keep people at bay. You can kind of see him with his sword raised, kind of looking around defiantly, like anything that comes up, anybody who asks questions, we're going to have a quick answer for you, that type of thing. But I think if you were to add all those quick answers together, things would not add up. And it's also not working out too great for them, because we keep seeing these pentacles in a negative light. So first of all, we were like seeing a lot less caring because of this financial issues over here, the expenses that they weren't expecting. We have 3 pentacles over here where they're trying to work very hard against the world, so to speak. Then quick decisions made while spending. They don't really get much charity. They're like trying all sorts of different things to get themselves out of these troubles, and it's not really helping. So they're definitely not doing too well with their resources. She may have grown up struggling, I feel. Let's see what else we can get. I get the impression that even though they may have thought that they were well prepared, they may not be very bright and perhaps not really thought everything through. And they're also very impatient because they're unwilling to take a different perspective. They're very much focused on the one thing that they're doing, because the Hangman normally is like taking a step back and taking a look from things at a new perspective. But they're really doggedly hanging on to their ideas from before. So what about these days? Can we get any information about that? Going back to the Affirmators deck. These days, let's see what we have. We have a 7 of Pentacles, so we're working on things. We have the 9 of Cups in reverse, not feeling too great about things, not too independent. And the Chariot, so things are moving. I feel like this is now a look at Jacqueline herself. Well, of course, it's probably no longer going by that name, but we see the 7 of Pentacles, like I said, and the Chariot in particular is things brewing, things moving. Having a focus on things, and we have the 9 of Cups here, which is just not feeling very good about yourself. It's emotional independence. It's not great. She may not be in the best of mindsets. There may be something brewing underneath the surface that is just making it difficult for her to be happy about things, even though she's working very hard on whatever it is that she's currently doing. Nope, this one. Can we also find out whether she's going to figure out the deception and the lies at some point? So we got the 9 of Swords here, and we also have the 5 of Swords. Okay, so this is kind of like the lies are continuing, and also she's not really allowed to question, even though I think she questions it internally. Like there's still things being told to her to keep her quiet, and she would be about 21 this May, so soon she'll be 21. And I think that even though she's not allowed to question much out loud, I think internally she is like mulling things over. So this looks like something is brewing. She may eventually start asking more questions more openly, or perhaps she's also trying to figure things out in the background, which may also be one of the 7 of Pentacles things that's happening. Yeah, because we have the Moon here that's in reverse. So I think she is definitely looking into things, trying to uncover stuff. So that's good news at the very least. At least that's what the cards are saying. Can we get any more information? Is she actually going to come home or find her way to a missing persons website where she will find information about her own case? Got two of them here. We have the Ten of Swords, which is a worry card, Darkness Before the Dawn, and we have the Lovers in reverse. Okay, so she's definitely worried, and possibly also worried about the fact that this would cause a lot of chaos in the family, which may be something that is keeping her from actually taking that final step to uncover all of the truth. Because we did see the Ten of Cups earlier, so I think even though they had a lot of struggles, she was brought up by people that were very loving, and maybe she really doesn't want to rock the boats too much. Yeah, the final two cards here. We have Judgment in reverse, which is like convincing her not to judge too harshly, also perhaps feeling like she would be judged if she were to ask these questions. And we see that as well with the Eight of Swords, which is trapping somebody inside of a mental prison, a thought process that they cannot escape. They could if they wanted to, but they're also kind of like afraid to do that because it would cause a lot of upheaval. So perhaps she is feeling like she can't ask these questions yet. She may wait until some other time when she feels more confident about these things. So far it's looking like she had at least a loving childhood, at least for a certain degree. The Empress was reversed, but that could just be due to financial worries that the new parents, so to speak, the kidnappers, were a little short perhaps with her sometimes, but overall it was a pleasant upbringing, albeit perhaps poor, because the resources were not quite as sufficient as they may have thought initially. And nowadays she is trying to move on with her life, but there is a lot of stuff like itching in the background. She may already have seen a few things here or there that are hinting at things not being quite as they seem, but she just doesn't want to ask the questions to rock the boat. That's what this is starting to look like. And that is what I'm seeing for Jacqueline Vasquez. If you found that interesting, make sure to leave a like and a comment. That really helps the channel along. Also, there is now a Google Forms link in the description if you have somebody you would like me to do a reading on, and this would have to be a public case, public missing or mystery case. You can put that in that Google form and I'll put it on my list, and we'll get to that eventually. For now, I want to thank you for watching. Hope to see you in another video, and bye bye for now.